Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another live stream here on Jacob's Aquarium. Hope you guys are doing good and hope your tanks are doing good as well. Welcome back everybody. I haven't done a live show in a while actually. In a while. I think it's been a little bit. So it's nice to be back on here talking to you guys and of course seeing all your comments in the chat right now. Thank you guys so much for coming and watching the live stream. I really appreciate it. You know, when you guys come back time and time again to watch the things I do on YouTube. So, welcome everybody. Hope you guys are doing good. I'm using my new microphone, by the way. For those of you that follow me on Facebook, I posted about this new microphone that I bought. This is the Sony ECM44B. Lavalier microphone. So I bought this so that when I make videos it's gonna be a little bit easier. You know, I don't have to hold this microphone like, you know. It's funny because people always ask me, you know, whenever they see a video and I'm talking into this thing, they're like, is he talking into a filter intake? Because that's what it looks like. It looks like a filter intake. And I always tell them, no, it's a shotgun microphone. That's what they call these things. This is the Rode NTG2, and I've used this for so many videos that I've done on this channel, and this thing has been through some pretty crazy things with me. Done a lot of videos with this thing, so a lot of good memories. But yeah, I got this new... Oh, I just popped the microphone. I can't talk too loud, I guess. I just got this new microphone, so it's a really good lavalier microphone. It's broadcast quality, so sounds really good. I can't wait to use it on my on a new video because I actually got one planned, so can't wait to try it out. So you should have glued some fake plants around the shotgun microphone for a theme. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, that'd make things pretty interesting. Okay, so let's get to your questions in the chat because that's mainly why I do these live shows, is to answer questions from you guys, because you know, everybody has questions about the Planet Tank hobby, and of course I want to help out if I can in some way. So Taylor Johnson says, how's the business going? And to answer that, business is going very, very well. I feel extremely blessed to be doing what I'm doing, something that I really love to do, and it's a lot of fun. You know, every day it's, you know, there's something new going on, and it just seems like I have to remind myself, you know, that this is all real, because I never thought someday I'd, you know, have this channel, my own business. I mean, it's crazy, but business is going very well, and I'm very happy. And I especially really am enjoying you know, running the nursery, because so many of my YouTube fans, followers, I hate to say fans because it's like I don't think of myself as somebody worthy of having fans, but I guess you know, I've met so many of them because they've taken trips out to the nursery to buy plants from me in person, so I get to meet them in person, and it's so amazing and so inspiring and so such a joy to meet the people that watch my videos and have supported the work that I do on the internet in person, and you know, shake their hand and say thank you in person. I really make sure I do that. You know, every person that comes to my nursery from my YouTube channel, I always make sure I shake their hand and say, you know, thank you so much for, you know, watching my videos and coming here to buy plants. Some people especially, they've come from so far away. There's a guy that drove all the way from San Francisco just to come to my nursery and buy plants. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. You know, I can't believe you would you would drive so far just to come see me, because I'm sure there's pet stores out in San Francisco that he could have gone to, but he wanted to come to me. So it's just things like that that really just make my heart explode. So yeah, business is going very good, and I'm very happy. So if someone takes a selfie with you, you have fans. There's your barometer for fame. Okay. Yeah, some people have taken selfies with me. I think it's kind of awkward because I'm like, I'm a nobody. I'm Jacob Castro. a person. I just make videos. So, what fish do you recommend for a 10-gallon? Well, I mean, it's hard to say. You know, a lot of people ask me like, what plants would you recommend for my tank? What fish would you recommend for my tank? It's hard to recommend anything without knowing the specifics about your aquarium. You know, the type of filtration you're going to use, type of lighting you're going to use if you're asking about plants. You know, just things like that. And most of it comes down to personal preference, because the fish that I might recommend, you might not like their color or the way they look. So it's hard to say, but I guess I can I can better answer that question if you just tell me a little bit more about your tank. So you said it's a 10-gallon. So what type of filtration are we using? Obviously, you want to stay with, you know, I can give you a few tips, I guess. You want to stay with that rule of not overstocking a tank. Not the 1 inch per gallon rule, though. The rule of, you know, not putting 20 goldfish in a 10-gallon tank, for example. So, but again, depends on your setup and type of fish you like. So, yeah. So just give me some more information about your tank, and I'll be sure to answer your question. Jacob, what's your favorite low-tech substrate? Low-tech substrate. I would say I really like EcoComplete. I've used it before in a lot of tanks that I've done. It's very, very budget friendly. You know, one bag of EcoComplete can cost, you know, 20-25 bucks versus, you know, ADA soil that can cost upwards of $50 a bag when you include shipping and stuff. And you know, it's a really good substrate. It's mostly made out of lava rock, so it can be a little difficult to, you know, put plants in it, because I've noticed when I used it in the past, whenever I try to plant plants in this substrate, the rocks kind of become so compact that when you're pushing the root system down into the rocks, it kind of breaks up the roots of the plant, and it kind of damages the plants a little bit. So that's the only thing I really don't like about it. But as long as you're careful when you plant your plants in that substrate, I think you should be okay, because it's a really good substrate. It's packed with a lot of nutrients, a lot of iron and stuff like that. So obviously things that are all beneficial to plants. So I'd recommend EcoComplete, but still I stand by ADA soil. You know, if you have the money, totally buy it. I have like 10 bags of that stuff in my garage right now. I love that stuff, and I'll continue to use it as long as I can afford it, because it is expensive. I won't lie about that. So, what are you doing in your room? Sitting here talking to you guys. Have you ever had to deal with an aquarium heater explosion? No, I never have, actually, and I hope that doesn't happen. For the pond, I actually, when it was really cold, now it's warm over here in California, so I don't have to use heaters, but I had three 300-watt Eheim heaters in my pond, and they sucked a lot of juice, you know, a lot of power. So if one of those things exploded, oof, that could be bad. So, but no, never experienced that before, so I can't say. How can I tell if my jungle Vallisneria is dying? Well, I mean, usually you can tell if any plant is dying if they're starting to turn a very light brown color. That means they're just basically melting away. Black, if they're turning black in color, same thing. Pretty much just the color of a plant is really how you can tell if they're dying or unhealthy. If you have a plant that has very like faded colors, it could be due to your lighting, it could be due to the nutrients in your tank. You know, but as far as dying goes, pretty much it's just color that you want to pay attention to. So, do you think an FX5 might be too powerful for a 55-gallon? I do intend to have fish that love flow, but I'm concerned about my sand getting blasted. Friend offered his for $100 for me. An FX5, a Fluval FX5 canister filter. I believe that's a canister filter. I don't know too much about, but I would imagine if you have sand in your tank and it's putting out a lot of flow, it's definitely going to move things around. And if sand gets sucked up into that filter and gets clogged in the impeller, that could do some damage to the filter. So I would recommend that if you do want to use an FX5, that you try to plumb it with your tank in a way where it doesn't really affect your substrate too much. So as far as the output goes, you can use a spray bar, which will kind of, you know, which will kind of spray out the water, versus a single output that'll just spray the water in one direction constantly, which would, you know, create a little bit more current in just one dedicated area of your tank. But with a spray bar, it kind of just, you know, kind of disperses the water very evenly. So I'd recommend that. So person of interest says, bought plants from you. They look fake because they're so perfect. Well, thank you so much for your order. I appreciate it. Anubias leaves have yellow on them. Any advice? If your Anubias leaves are turning yellow, it could be because you have them under too much light. I've experienced that before. But then again, you know, going back to the other question that somebody asked about how to tell if a jungle val is dying, you know, color really determines the health of a plant. So your Anubias could be suffering some sort of nutrient deficiency as well. So, or it could be your water. You know, it's very hard to say, guys. It's very hard to diagnose problems over the internet with a fish tank because there's so many different variables with the fish tank. So, but I'm doing my best here. So I would say if your Anubias is turning yellow, it might be too much light. It could be a nutrient deficiency, things like that. Or it could be your water quality, you know. Joshua Salandi says, any experience with golden Nasea? Yes, I actually have some of that growing in the pond right now. And as far as my experience growing it, I've only grown it for about, I think, I've grown it twice in my whole Planet Tank, you know, adventure. I grew it once in my 80-gallon when I had that set up, and now I have it growing in the pond. Growing this plant, I've noticed that it is quite demanding. It loves CO2, it loves high light, it loves nutrients. So definitely not a plant for a beginner. But as far as its growth rate, which this is what I noticed the most about this plant, it grows super, super slow. I probably got an inch of growth out of this plant probably once, well, not once, but I probably got an inch of growth out of this plant in about, I would say, a month and a half to 2 months time of it growing, you know. It grows super, super slow. So that's the only thing I didn't like about it. But other than that, I would say it's a very demanding plant that requires pretty much everything in the Planet Tank hobby to keep it alive. Good substrate, CO2, high light, you know, things like that. So, but it's a beautiful plant nonetheless, you know. It does kind of have a golden color if you get it immersed grown, and it kind of does keep that color for a little bit. But if you have it under highlight, it's more of like a reddish golden color. It's not really going to stay that bright golden color if you get it grown immersed. So, do you recommend any dry ferts? Yeah, actually I do. I personally use the dry fertilizers or the granule water soluble fertilizer from greenleafaquariums.com. I've been using that for a while now, and it's really, really good stuff, and it's super, super cheap. If you compare it to if you compare how much you can make, how much fertilizer that is you can make using the dry ingredients from Greenleaf Aquariums versus, you know, the little bottles of, you know, Seachem Flourish or whatever that you can buy at a pet store, you get a lot more for your money when you use the dry ingredients. So definitely I recommend that fertilizer as far as dry fertilizers go. It's very cheap and can last you a long time. If you have a small tank, especially like a 10-gallon, I'm pretty sure one pack, you know, or one package, you know, because there's different types of dry ferts that you mix together with this, you know, fertilizer from this company. But I guarantee it'll last you at least a year. I mean, it'll last you a long time. So, what's the best way you deal with diatom algae? Also, what fish are you stocking in your pond? Asked Taylor Johnson. In the pond right now, I have a bunch of blue and gold gouramis. I have 2 rainbow fish that I got actually just as babies, and they're much bigger now. It's been really cool watching them grow. And I have a bunch of zebra danios, and I have a school of red-eye tetras, and I have 2, what are they called? 2 I forget it. They're a really popular, really easy beginner tetra. Um, ah, I forgot the name, but I have two of those in there as well. And they're doing really, really great. So you're asking about diatom algae. Well, I actually just made a video about this. If you look on my channel, in my history of videos, I have a video I made about a product called, it's from API, the company API, and it's called Algae Fix. Whenever I have algae in my pond, that's what I use, and it gets rid of all the algae really, really well. What happens is the algae that is currently growing in the pond, once I dose this stuff, it'll turn white and basically just disintegrate, and it gets sucked up into the filtration system, and it's out of there, you know. I really, really like that product. I've been using it for a long time, and it's really, really saved my planted tanks whenever I've had a big algae outbreak. So I'm pretty sure that that it could take care of diatoms or whatever type of algae you're talking about. But yeah, give it a try. Just be careful with it, you know, because you can definitely kill your plants and fish if you use too much of it. So definitely watch my video though, because I talk a lot more about it, and I definitely give more information about it than what I'm giving here. So if you look through my history of videos, the video is pretty much just called API Algae Fix. Jacob, you should work at a pet store. I have actually worked at a pet store. I worked at a pet store for about 6 months before I started my business, and it was the worst job I ever had. And I'm not speaking for every pet store out there, but in particular that pet store that I worked at, my boss was the meanest, most demanding, unorganized, just rude person of a boss I could ever have. So I definitely did not enjoy working there, but I'm kind of glad my boss was so mean to me though, because it actually promoted me to quit my job and start my own business. So if that wouldn't have happened, I probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys. So I'm kind of glad, you know, everything happens for a reason, right? Mr. Jerry Bravo says, you got way thinner. Aw, well, thank you very much for that comment. I appreciate it. I still think I'm fat, but yeah, I do look a little bit better than I have in my previous videos. If you go back to, what, 2014, some of those videos, I was pretty big. I had big cheeks, you know. I was pretty big. But yeah, I decided to get my life under control, and you know, kind of control myself when it comes to what I put in here. Wait, that sounds wrong. I decided to control myself when it comes to food. I should have said that. World Pets TV says Anubias is in stock, yes or nay? It's not nay, it's yes. I have Anubias in stock. I have, I think I have over 8 or 9 different species of Anubias in stock right now. So if you want one though, buy it now, because literally I've noticed that I can stock the website full of plants, and within a week I'm sold out. So I'm having a hard time keeping up with the demand. So whenever somebody asks me like, hey, do you have this in stock, I always tell them, yeah, I do. You better buy it now, because it's going to be gone in a couple days. Like today I was checking my phone, you know, because I have this app with my that's connected to my website, and it shows me every time I get an order. It's from Squarespace. It's a Squarespace app, but it shows me every time I get an order, and my phone was just going off and off and off and off, and I'm just like, this is going to be a busy Monday and Tuesday, because that's when I ship plants, is on Monday and Tuesday, and I do it all myself. So, you know, I think right now I have like 122 orders to go out, so it's a lot of work, but I love doing it because I know it makes you guys happy, and of course I make money from it. So I can support my lavish lifestyle. I'm just kidding. No, I don't do it mainly for the money. I do it because I have fun with it. So Mr. Wilcox says, dude. Then again, Mr. Wilcox says, make your bed. That is not bed sheets. Those are clothes that need to be put away. They just came out of the dryer. And my sheets are actually in the dryer, so I can't actually make my bed. And it would be kind of awkward if I just got up and started making my bed as I'm doing a live show. That's kind of weird. So, but thanks for the encouragement to make my bed. Guava Juice says, do you think workers from PetSmart and Petco employees have experience with fishes? I would imagine that some do. Some probably do, you know, but mostly the ones that I have come in, that I've encountered, they're very inexperienced when it comes to this hobby, and they definitely need to do the research on a lot of the things they recommend. You know, there's been times I've been in a Petco or a PetSmart, and I've been looking at fish, or I've been down one of the aisles, and I can overhear an employee talking to a customer and recommending this, recommending that, telling them what to do with their tank in this way and that way, and the whole time I'm just like, oh my god, no, don't recommend that to this person, because they're gonna go home, make a big mistake, and not be happy. But you know, there are some employees at some of these stores. You know, it's not very common, but there's some that are rather experienced, and they actually do give out the right information. But you know, for the most part, the employees I've encountered, they're barely 18 years old, and they know nothing about what they're doing. They're basically there to earn a paycheck. They're not there to, you know, educate people in this hobby properly, so they in return you know, have a good experience in this hobby. And it always pisses me off, you know, whenever I hear the wrong information being given to a customer at one of these stores, because you know, it really affects the industry when somebody in this hobby isn't happy. Because when somebody tries so many times to do a planted tank and they're unsuccessful because they've been given the wrong information, they eventually give up. And when they give up, the industry loses a customer. And when the industry loses a customer, that's not good. That can kill businesses like mine, you know, or fish stores, pet stores, the store that they're at, the Petco or PetSmart. It could be the death of that store. So, you know, there needs to be more effort put into educating the employees that give out this information, so that, you know, people stay in this hobby and they keep buying products in this hobby, keeping the hobby alive, you know, not discouraging them after so many failed attempts of a fish tank because they've been given the wrong information, you know. So so as far as what you said about PetSmart or Petco, I don't believe that a majority of the employees are experienced. I actually believe a lot of them are inexperienced, but there are a select few, very few out there that, you know, work at these stores that actually know their stuff. So, but it's not easy to find. My recommendation would be just to go to a regular mom and pop fish store, because they usually are the most experienced ones. You know, the people that run mom and pop fish stores have, you know, most likely been in the hobby for 25 years. You know, especially if you go to a store that's been around for a while. Well, yeah, that makes sense. Like the store that I go to, for example, my favorite store, called The Reef in Anaheim, it's been around since the 60s, and the owner that owns it now, because it's actually been through several different owners, he's been in the hobby for many, many years. So you can trust the information he gives to you. But PetSmart or Petco employees, nah. They don't know left from right. Fernando Vega says, can you do a video on the process of filling orders, kind of like a day in the life of a nursery owner? Sure, I'll consider that. Lorna, not just one customer. That one customer goes out and badmouths the hobby. Yeah, that too. That too. You know, that's actually, Lorna W., you actually brought up a good point. That one person that, you know, is given the wrong information and gets discouraged in this hobby, they will actually, they could be spreading a bad, you know, a bad name for the hobby. Like when they talk about it with their friends that are maybe considering getting into the hobby, they could, you know, discourage them from even attempting to start something in the hobby, because you know, they'll be sharing their their negative experiences with their friends. So definitely all around, it's just not good when somebody gets discouraged in this hobby because they've been given the wrong information. So Mr. Wilcox says, Algae Fix works great. Thanks for the info and video earlier. You're welcome. That's what I'm here to do, is to help you guys be better Aquarius. So support your mom and pop store unless you have no choice. I completely agree. I completely agree. I pretty much have only shopped at PetSmart or Petco when it's been convenient for me. But if I have the time, if I'm not busy, I will take a trip out to my nearest mom and pop fish store because I much prefer going there than PetSmart or Petco. You know, when I walk into a big box pet store, I don't feel at home. I feel like I'm in a place that just wants to take my money, you know, if that makes sense, you know. But when I walk into a mom and pop fish store, I see, you know, the dedication, I see the passion for the hobby, I see the experience, and I really feel like I'm surrounded by other people that love what they do just like I do. And that's the only time when I really feel at home, when I'm shopping at a mom and pop fish store. But you know, whenever I go into a PetSmart or Petco, I'm just like looking around, and you know, like everything's so perfect and sectioned off, and prices are so like perfect, you know, and everything. And I don't know, it feels very artificial to me. It doesn't feel, you know, it doesn't feel like there's any love in those stores. Once again, if that makes sense, I'm trying to convey my feelings for big box stores, but I don't know if I'm doing a good job of that. Just wanted to let you know the inline diffuser suck really so bad. I changed back to my old now, and the growth is awesome. Okay. Well, different things work for different setups, so just because it didn't work for you doesn't mean it can't work for somebody else. I know plenty of people that use inline diffusers, and they do great. I actually used an inline diffuser with my previous tanks before, and I've had no problems with it actually. Your reason I have plants, if it wasn't for you and your videos, everyone at work is amazed I haven't killed them, or my beta. I give you the credit. Well, thank you, Lorna. I really appreciate it. Jacob Silva, the fishy, says, how mean was your boss? Ooh, I don't know if I want to go there. You know, it was so long ago that I worked at that pet store. I really don't want to remember any of it, and I really prefer not to talk about it, to be honest, because my previous boss is crazy, and I don't want him watching this and, you know, going ballistic. So probably better just not to talk about it. How many tanks do I have? I don't have any tanks, actually. I do have an ADA 75P though that I'm going to be setting up soon, but for the time being I just have the pond at the nursery right now. So, can regular airline tubing be used in a pressurized CO2 system? What type of tubing is best to use? Asks Clarion Contreras. Okay, so you do not want to use regular airline tubing for a pressurized CO2 system. The reason being is because the regular airline tubing is very, very thin as far as, you know, the vinyl, the plastic, whatever it's made out of. It's very, very thin, and there's tons and tons of microscopic pores in that material. So if you use it with a CO2 system, a pressurized CO2 system especially, there's so much pressure going through the line that CO2 will seep out. You may not be able to hear it. You may not be able to feel it if you're holding the tubing in your hand, but trust me, it's coming out. So there's just so many little microscopic pores in regular airline tubing. So you definitely don't want to use regular airline tubing. My recommendation would be to go to a website called greenleafaquariums.com. They sell CO2 rated pressure, or CO2 specific airline tubing. And once you get it, you know, and you see it in person, you'll notice if you compare it to regular airline tubing that the CO2 airline tubing is much, much thicker. It's probably at least like 4 or 5 times thicker than your standard standard airline tubing. So you definitely don't want to use regular airline tubing, because you'll only be injecting CO2 into the room where your aquarium is, you don't get me wrong, you'll still be injecting some into your tank, but a lot could be wasted as it's because it'll be coming out of those little pores. So you want to use CO2 specific rated, tubing, and you can find that on the website that I mentioned, greenleafaquariums.com. And someday I hope they start paying me for all the times I've recommended their website. Because I recommend them all the time. I've given them so much business most likely, and I haven't got a cent from them, but whatever. Let's see. Oh, I already answered that. I run my CO2 line straight into my Tetra hang on the back. Works great. I did the same for many, many years. When I had a wet dry filter set up with my tank, I actually just had the CO2 line going into my return pump, and it would, suck up the CO2 bubbles, mix it with the water really good as it goes through all the pipes and stuff and back into the tank. So it's kind of an old school way of diffusing CO2 in an aquarium, but it works, and it'll definitely save you some money because, some of these really good CO2 diffusers can cost upwards of 30, 40. If you buy an ADA CO2 diffuser, you're looking at maybe 150 bucks. So yeah, they can get pretty expensive. But yeah, I did that. Jacob Silva, the fishy, says, bye Jacob, I will come back soon. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for watching the live stream. Guava Juice says, have you went fishing? I went fishing probably twice in my entire life. I did not catch a damn thing, and that's when I decided fishing is just not for me. It is just not for me. Are the plants on your website snail and pest free? Oh boy, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna go there. If you want snail free, pest free plants, buy tissue culture plants. No retailer on the internet, okay, that sells regular aquarium plants can guarantee, can promise that their plants are snail free or pest free. We all get our plants pretty much from the same distributors, whether international or local, like from Florida, within the country, and they all have the risk of having snails. So you can't really avoid it. It's not possible. The only way to is is to strictly only use tissue culture plants in your tank. The thing is that they're very, very expensive sometimes, and they're most likely they can be like 3-4 times the cost for a regular plant, and the portions you get from tissue cultures are like, are that big, that much around. Versus if you bought regular aquarium plants, you get, bundles of aquarium or stem plants, especially, that are, pretty big. So, as great as a snail-free tank would seem, in my opinion, it doesn't seem worth it. I've had Planet tanks for a long time. I had a 50-gallon, I had a 10-gallon, I had a 80-gallon. You guys have seen that. All of those tanks had snails in them, and they were all very, very successful, and they look beautiful, and most of all, since the snails ate algae, they really kept a lot of the places that I couldn't reach to clean pretty clean, so they were actually a pretty big benefit, and of course, if you ever want to manage snails in your tank, there's so many different methods on how to do it, and there's actually different methods on how to clean aquarium plants, or different solutions that you can dip your aquarium plants in to kill the snails or snail eggs. I don't stand by any of those methods because some of those methods can actually prove to be very harmful to an aquarium plant. So of course, do those things at your own risk. But there are ways you can manage snails in your tank. Like I said, you can treat your plants before you introduce them into your aquarium, but that's not 100% guaranteed. I've seen and heard so many people do things like bleach dipping and things, and a week later they have snails in their tank. So it's not 100% that you'll be able to get rid of them. But as far as managing snails in your tank, I've heard of people that have put a slice of a cucumber in their aquarium. They leave it overnight, and in the morning the snails are all attached to the cucumber, and they'll take it out and throw it away. So you can manage snails that way. Um, but you know, that's pretty much it. And I apologize if I seemed a little agitated when you asked me the question about snails. It's just that so many people all the time ask me, you know, are your plants snail free? I don't want snails in my tank. Or, you know, some people have actually ordered plants from me and they get them and there's a snail in the bag, you know, or something like, or there's snail eggs on the plant and they freak out, you know, and they tell me, oh, I want my money back. This is ridiculous. You gave me snails in my tank. And I always think back and I'm like, well, you know, anywhere else they would have ordered the same plant. They'd have the same risk. They, you know, there'd be no difference, you know. And it's weird that it's like I'm being singled out for that. Just because, you know, they don't understand. There's a misconception, you know. Um, so, but yeah, like I said, the only way to avoid them is just to use tissue culture plants. But they're very expensive. And I mean, if you have a big tank that you want to stock full of plants from the start and you want to use tissue culture plants, man, you're looking you're looking at spending at least $500-600 on just plants alone, because you know these tissue culture plants can be $8-9. Some of them are even $10-11 a piece. So you know, it's just snails are not a big deal. They really aren't. So. Well, I have been keeping fish for over 10 years, but now just getting into plants. But thanks for the info. Oh, okay. Cool. Pedro Diaz says, I placed my first order last week and got the plants yesterday. Baby tears, okay, as well as the Sagittaria broadleaf, okay. The Java moss, however, didn't seem to survive. It was mostly brown stuff. Will it live? No. If the Java moss is brown, that it could have died during shipping, and in that case, all you would have to do is just send us a message and a picture to the email. Just follow the dead on arrival policy that I that's actually outlined on the paperwork that I include with every package, and definitely will give you a refund. So, but you said that I placed my order last week and got the plants yesterday. I believe that's been over 24 hours. So our policy is actually 24 hours. So actually, no, maybe it's not 24 hours. Yeah, just send us a picture of the Java moss, and once we confirm all that, we'll give you a refund. No problem. Daniel Quinn says, my biggest beef with snails is you never get the kind you want. Yeah. Well, with the snails that I have in my pond, I honestly have no idea what they are. I just call them pond snails, but they don't get too big, you know. They stay mostly pretty small, so but they do a hell of a good job of eating algae in the pond when there is algae. So, but you know, I've noticed though that when there's no food source for them, I mostly start finding shells in my pond. It's actually pretty crazy, you know. Like for example, whenever I've used API algae fix and I've killed all the algae in my pond, like a week later, I'll start to notice just all these just empty shells, you know, at the bottom of my pond. And I guess because there's no algae for them to eat, they get malnourished and die or something. So maybe that's another method to managing snails. You know, take away their food source, I guess. I don't know. There's so many different methods. So, and of course they're available on the internet, so you can find them pretty easy. Kenneth Ben says, you ever going to get more flame moss back in? As far as flame moss goes, I actually, that's not a plant that I can order from a supplier. I pretty much have to grow it myself. The only flame moss I can get is in tissue culture form, and you know, it's not too big, and it's expensive for me to even buy. So, and I found out, you know, when I was selling tissue culture plants, they didn't really, you know, they sold well in the beginning, but then I noticed people just weren't buying them, you know. So it's not like I can order them and you know, use one for me to grow the flame moss for myself and sell the rest. So since I can only get it like that, I've had to grow it myself, and I've been growing it myself for a while. It's just a slow grower, so I'm not sure when I'll have more in stock. I'm thinking maybe 3-4 weeks from now, probably. Nano video far post 79. He doesn't want to read it. What don't I want to read? Or maybe you're talking to somebody else. Okay. Huh. You guys make me laugh. You're funny. Uh, oh, okay. Far Post 79, best substrate for a high-tech tank with CO2. Dirt can get messy when replanting. ADA soil, for sure. How do I remove a pest? Gorilla crab? Gorilla crab? I never heard of those. It keeps trying to nip at my fish and has grown rather large. Well, if it's big, I would say it's pretty easy to spot, so just grab it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to I don't know how to answer that, to be honest. Let's see. Do I need CO2 for baby tears, or is liquid fertilizer good enough because I dose potassium? For regular baby tears, you don't really need CO2, but for dwarf baby tears, it's definitely recommended, for sure. Hey Jacob, can I use potting soil from my plants in my aquarium? I wouldn't recommend that. If you do, try it at your own risk. There's some people that have used it. There's some videos on YouTube I've seen of people using potting soil. But I personally, I wouldn't use it. There's a lot of things going on in potting soil that I wouldn't want to introduce into my aquarium. So, thank you, Jacob. Do you recommend black diamond blasting sand with root tabs? Yeah, actually, I actually, in my pond, I have silica sand, and they use that for sandblasting too. And I don't have root tabs in my pond, but I dose a lot of liquid nutrients, and I inject CO2. I have high light over the pond, of course, you know, it gets a lot of sunlight. And my plants grow really, really great. Actually, all my plants do, even the most demanding plants. So you can definitely use sand, you know, even though it doesn't have any nutrients in it, but you just want to compensate in some way for that loss of nutrients. So definitely root tabs would help, for sure. So root tabs, or you can just make sure you're dosing liquid nutrients or injecting CO2. Anything extra would definitely help. So potting soil can have high manure and stink up your house. Yeah, maybe. Ever plan on starting a reef tank? No. I don't like the saltwater hobby, to be honest. I have nothing against the people that are in the saltwater hobby, but I personally don't enjoy the saltwater hobby. Gorilla crabs or saltwater? Oh, okay. Well, gorilla crabs I know nothing about. Hey Jacob, what do you think of a Finex Ray 2? I've never used a Finex Ray. I can't say for sure. I believe one customer that came in the nursery though told me that he used one, and I think he said he had a problem with it. Like he said, within a month or so, the LED started to dim quite a bit. I don't know if that's typical with these things, so I wouldn't say, you know, take my word for it that they're bad or anything. But I've heard of one negative experience from a customer about a Finex light. But you know, as far as them being good for plants, if they're bright, they're at the right Kelvin rating, you know, 65, 6700K, they should grow plants just fine. So for sure. Do I do this every Friday night? I actually don't have a schedule for these live shows. This is pretty much just a spur of the moment thing. I was doing them on a regular basis, but I've just become so busy. I don't have time, or I'm not able to commit to a live streaming schedules. Unfortunately, I really wish I could though. So, but I try to do these live shows as much as I can. Jack McGuire says, just ordered some Rotala Indica late Thursday night. Can't wait till they come in. Awesome. I know you really enjoy them, and I can't wait to ship them to you. Thank you so much for your order. How low light can Java Fern and Nubius go? I've got a 10 gallon 400K sword dwarf hair, but it is dark on the side with Nubius and Java Fern. Do I need more light? You know, Anubias plants and Java Fern, they can tolerate super, super low light conditions. Um, Anubias plants actually are used in a planted tank, even by the professionals, in shaded areas of a planted tank where there's literally no light. So Anubias plants can definitely tolerate little to no light at all, for sure. So yeah, it should be fine. Can active carbon be used as a substrate? Active carbon removes nutrients and minerals from the water column. Would it be readily available to refrigerate? I wouldn't recommend using activated carbon as substrate. No. Taylor Short says, I wish I could visit your nursery. It's amazing. Sadly, I live in South Carolina. Well, you know what? If I ever make it really, really big and I have lots of money, I'll fly a bunch of you guys out to California to come see my nursery. That'd be really cool. Like I'll be the Ellen DeGeneres of the aquarium hobby. Like, you guys now get a free trip to California. Woo, yay! I don't know if you guys saw that, but she actually did do that. She flew out a whole audience from like New York to California to see her show in LA. It was the most craziest thing I've ever seen for a show host to do. So Alexander Del Valle says, legalize Asian marijuana. Hell yeah, man. Legalize it. Asian marijuana though. That's what I meant. I'm just kidding. Legalize everything. No, JK. Guava Juice says, bye Jacob. Okay. Thank you, Guava Juice, for watching. I really appreciate it. Have fun in your Planet Tank adventure. I ordered 12 plants from you. Hope they do well. I hope they do too. I live down the street. Pay for my Uber. Maybe. Okay, Alexander. Yeah. They should legalize captive bred Asian marijuana, because you know the whole purpose behind banning the Asian marijuana for sale in America was because it was supposedly endangered. Okay, that's great, that's fine, but you know, what about captive bred Asian marijuana? If there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds being bred in captivity at farms all across Asia, why can't we buy those? You know, I don't understand it. I never will. So most fish folks on YouTube live in Ohio. Okay. Lorna says, you can see your nursery. We are coming down in August to see my angels play. Maybe I can come see it. Oh, sure. Yeah. I'd love to meet you in my nursery. Sure. So you like the angels, huh? That's nice. I've actually seen, like, I lived in California pretty much my whole life. I've seen one angel game when I was a kid. It was a long time ago. So, but you think because I'm in California and more importantly Southern California, I would have seen them a lot more. Alexander says, I know here in San Diego a guy tried selling one and got arrested. Did you hear about it? I've heard actually quite a few stories of people selling Asian marijuana and getting in really big trouble for it. And you know what? It is the stupidest, dumbest thing I've ever heard whenever I read or hear about something like that. I think it's so stupid that people are getting in trouble for this, because the fish that they're trafficking or trying to sell, they're not taken from the wild. They're captive bred for Christ's sake. You know, something's really got to be changed with that law, but I don't see it changing anytime soon. The government, or whoever is in charge of this crap, probably doesn't want to change it because they want people to, illegally traffic it so they can get them in trouble and put them in jail, or give them a huge fine and make some money. It's like profit for the local government. So, and honestly, most politicians, most anybody, they don't care about legalizing the Asian marijuana here. It's not a big concern to them. There's so many other things going on, that are more important to them, obviously. But if I had, a group of supporters, I would be protesting wherever I had to get the Asian marijuana legalized, because it's been illegal for so long to own one of these things in America, and during that time, so many new farms have popped up all across Asia that breed the Asian marijuana, and there's so many of them in captivity now. There's no reason why a hobbyist, could not own one, And if you think about it, if they did start selling the Asian marijuana in America, there would be such a huge business boom from just legalizing that fish. So many people want this fish in America. I mean, if they made it legal, whichever farm is like the most popular or selling the most in America, they overnight they'd become a huge success. They'd be $100 million, 500, half a billion dollar company, I guarantee, because they would make so much money. I mean, if you think about it, one of these fish, a chili red crossback Asian marijuana, you can literally get probably at least $10,000 to $15,000 for just one of these fish, and people will pay that much for a fish. There are people out there that will, but not only that, there's plenty of other cheaper arowana. So it's not like the Asian arowana would only be available to the super rich market. There's plenty that are cheap, but they're still Asian arowana. They still have that different look than the arowanas we're used to, the silver or the Giardini arowana, and of course they have the color. That's the biggest thing that draws people to the Asian arowana is the color. There's so many different colored Asian arowanas. There's golden, there's albino, there's red. The red ones obviously seem to be the most popular, and they're beautiful, So Jacob, your unmade bed slash pile is distracting. Okay, sorry, I apologize. What do you want me to say? This is my room, right? Can I not keep my room the way I want it to be? Or can I not leave things on my bed? I think I explained that in the beginning of the live stream, Oh, it's hot here. Ooh, it's windy outside. Yeah. Alright guys, well, I usually do these live streams for about an hour, so we're coming up on 57 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'm going to be ending the live stream in, wait, let me do my math, 7, 8, 9, 10, okay, that's 3 minutes. So make sure you get those questions in so that before the live stream ends. Lorna says, you are so like my son. Oh. Taylor Short says, what is your favorite fish? We were just talking about it. The Asian arowana is my favorite fish. Chaz's Fish Channel says, I once swapped my PS3 for African cichlids. I've never heard that. Wow. You swapped a PS3 for African cichlids. They must have been some pretty good African cichlids, because I don't know any, any kid that would ever swap a PS3 for fish, but they must have been some good fish. New to CO. Patty Wilson says new to CO2 have an algae outbreak. Try API algae fix, Patty. That should definitely help you. Nano Video says, what's my favorite fish food? I've used the same fish food for many years. Tetracolor, that's the fish that, or the food that I've been using for many years. So, Lorna W says, good night. Okay, Lorna, good night. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. Hey Jacob, is there a method to spread carpet plants? I mean, typically carpeting plants like highlight. So if you give them highlight, they tend to spread out or grow more more horizontally than vertically, you know. So highlight definitely will help spread out a carpeting plant. Yeah, I mean, that's all I recommend. How can I grow a moss ball? I unfortunately have never grown moss balls, so I can't say. I was saying, what is your favorite food to eat? Oh, fish. Oh. If I'm eating fish, I really like salmon. My favorite food to eat would probably be Taco Bell, but I try to not eat that too much, or else I'll gain some weight. God, it is really windy outside. It's like a hurricane out there. Holy crap! Jeez, can you guys hear that? Let me get the microphone over there. See if you guys can hear that. Do you hear that? It is windy outside. Oh my goodness. It's like a hurricane. Oops. Windy. Okay. Okay. So we're past an hour. So thank you guys so much for watching the live stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching my videos and supporting my channel, and to all my customers from jacobsaquarium.com, thank you so much for all your orders. I really appreciate it. Okay, so I'll try to do another live stream very soon. I know I haven't done one of these in a while, but as you can imagine, I've just, you know, I got a lot to do. So actually, yeah, I do got a lot to do. I got to put away some clothes and, you know, get my sheets out of the dryer and make my bed and go to bed and get some sleep. That's what I got to do. So I'm gonna do that now. Thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I love you all so much. I really do, and it means a lot to me that you guys watch my live streams and my videos. Okay, so have fun with your tanks, everybody, and I will see you next time.